Nyklot, I never understood why you begin with like German idealism and phenomenology and then end up with such straightforwardly realist conclusions. Like, why not just start with the realism?
Well, what do you mean? Like, the reason I start with German idealism is because the example that I gave here. I am using Schopenhauer in a sense of basically getting something like the Veil of Maya. I'm saying, okay, I don't know the red cup is or the cup is red better than you because we all have that shared reality, to Taco's term, of what's phenomenal, of space, time, and causation. But what I do know better is what's noumenal. And this is where Schopenhauer would say through aesthetic contemplation and inward knowledge of the will. And that's it. And it's because of my embodiment, it's because of my constitution. I just have a better access to this than other people. So Schopenhauer is very integral into that. And you can also even see something like Nietzsche. I'll see if I can find the Nietzsche quote where he said, consciousness falsifies. Truth is in the unconscious. And you can see that carry over to Jung and archetype. So, hey, look, the reason you just don't have that inward knowledge that I do. And this goes right to, I guess, this is straight German idealism. Absolutely. I mean, Evola referenced Fichte when Evola said flat out the reason why people have the philosophy that they do has to do with the inward character of who they are. That's ultimately it. I mean, it's your philosophy in a certain sense is determined by who you are. And there's nothing you can do about that.
Yeah,
Well, if
which
someone has a
sounds like
different kind
Fichte,
of
right? But
atheism,
Fichte doesn't think that your personality leads you to understanding the noumena better, right? For
No,
Fichte,
that's not what I said about Fichte.
for Fichte, it's whether or not you understand your own freedom in
Yeah,
positing.
exactly. True. But that's the point I'm making. So for Fichte, when it comes to the difference between realism and idealism, he said flat out, it has to do with how seriously someone takes their sense of moral vocation. He said, philosophically speaking, he believes that each two, whether you're realist or idealist, whether you want to basically say everything is ideal or everything is material and consciousness is phenomenal, he believes you can give philosophical arguments for both. But what Fichte is saying, the starting point is just based on your character. Whether you integrate your lively concept of freedom and moral duty. And he believes the person who's the realist, the reason he is that, because something within him, he just can't integrate that into him and take that sense of moral vocation seriously. It's just something, but it's not rational. It's not something that the guy's arguing. It's just something within the character and the constitution of it.
Yeah, that's right. And so he's going to say that um, when you're expressing that subjectivity, that's precisely what you're doing is expressing subjectivity, right? It's not that you know an object better, it's that you know your freedom in positing objects better.
Exactly. But that's my point. I never said I understand the cup is red better. What I've always said I understood, not going fictive more for Schopenhauer, I understand the archetypes. I understand the principle better. I am piercing through the veil. I'm piercing through the veil of Maya. I am going beyond space, time, and causation, and I am understanding the archetypes. That is what the Clegessian blood glow is. I know that better than others here because of my constitution, because of my embodiment. To go back to Evola, because of the race of soul, body, and spirit. That is the reason. Because of my body, number one, the way I look with that muscularity. Also, the paganism. I'm pagan hearted. That's it. That means right away, soul, body, and spirit, the integration. I just know these archetypes better than you. So when it comes to something
does
that
that
can't
only
be empirically observed, I'm just going to say by default, I just know this better.
Why
And
would
do you not
anybody
does
take
that
believe
only
that?
apply to your form of paganism?
do you not take it that the distinction between subject and object is subjectively established? So the distinction between uh, what the real thing and Maya, is that subjectively or objectively established?
Uh, the real so I'm going for more for Schopenhauer. So you know the idea as far as for Schopenhauer, the conditions necessary for the possibility of experience are limited to the PSR. So it's space, time, and causation. So when you break out of space, time, and causation outside of the PSR, you can know something in the sense of its Platonic form. So you're familiar with that aspect of Schopenhauer.
I'm only vaguely familiar with Schopenhauer.
Okay. But yeah, that's basically it. So what I'm claiming is that I'll see if I can find that Nietzsche quote as well. Oh, here it is. Actually, I have it saved.
So it's just some
So it's just
ecstatic escaping of finite conditions of knowledge.
Yes, exactly. That's how Schopenhauer understands it. Yes. And here it is as well. For the longest time, thinking was considered as only conscious. Only now do we discover that the truth of the greatest part of our intellectual activity lies in the unconscious. The unconscious becomes a source of wisdom and knowledge that can reach into the fundamental aspects of human existence, while the intellect is held to be abstracting and falsifying mechanism that is
Hey,
directed not towards
Discernible, I
truth.
sent you a DM.
Yep. So this is it. It's going on Nietzsche, and it's referencing the gay science here for Nietzsche. That's all I'm saying. All I'm saying specifically is that I can go to the unconscious. I can go inwards and I can know things that others can't. And that has to do with my embodiment. Yeah. And that was where Nietzsche goes to Claudius, which goes to Jung archetype. It is straight Jungian that certain people will just know these archetypes better than others. That would be it. And that is actually pagan. That's that type of paganism that is what I would call the pagan right. I don't mean that political. I mean it more in the vitalistic and traditionalist aspect. I mean, Vola is very flat out about it. Vola is extremely explicit about it. These truths cannot be demonstrated. They just can be remembered. It's anamnesis. It's flat out a doctrine in the pagan rite that these things are recollected via an anamnesis. They're known inwards via the blood, and blood is used loosely in that sense. That's it. That's just the knowledge. And I would tell you now, put this, see, look at this discernible. It's a combination of, it's a combination with that body and with the pagan soul and spirit. That just means, okay. I mean, when it comes to noumenal, I just know it. That's it. That's the thing, discernible. So let's think about this for a second. Okay, so let me ask you a question. No matter how good he can argue, what would you think about someone like an Angstreich or Detroyer or any of these people like that presenting my pagan position that I have? How would you interpret that coming from those people?
Yeah, I mean, there definitely has to be an aesthetic that goes along with it in the presentation as well.
Yeah. So that's what Taco's saying. Taco's saying that my philosophical outlook is dependent on me.
Fuck, you guys are all horrible.
So is that it, Taco? So you're saying my position is less about the strength of my argument, but more about the amount that I can bench press.
How much can you bench press?
I could show you something where I'm doing 150-pound dumbbells.
Like, do you take your position to be that, you're gazing at the world as a Chad, therefore the world is a Chad place? Or do you take yourself to be seeing an absolute beyond Chadness, beyond whatever else?
How can I put it? I understand it in this sort of way. To take concepts and percepts thing. And I explained this earlier to Josie. I said, I think I'm more of a percept versus concept. I said the concept versus percept, if someone has more concepts, I put them as a Detroyer or Cartesian theater. They're bugmen. They're not perceiving via the intuition these intensities. And so everything is hyper analytical concepts to them. On the other hand, more percepts over concepts are what Jean-Luc Marion calls a saturated intuition, which is the icon, the idol, flesh, and all these things. I believe that my embodiment, the soul, spirit, and all this, and as well as soul and spirit as well, I am just intuiting, I'm perceiving these saturated intuitions. And when I perceive this, imagination is running around, being flooded, and I'm interpreting that as the recollection of archetypes. That would be it. So I'm just having an access to this, which I believe the other person just doesn't have.
I don't think saturated phenomena are related to character any more than icons or idols are.
No, but I mean, I'm using Marion's terms of it. And basically, I mean by saturated intuition that my intuition is more receptive than what is spatiotemporal, and that's going to be experienced as the numinous or the sublime. And the way that's going to be conceptualized, if anything, is through mythic and symbolic imagery in my imagination. That's where the recollection or anamnesis happens.
So, like, my feeling about what you say continues to be that you're looking in a mirror, right, and confusing that mirror for the world. I think you're taking yourself to be an idol rather than seeing an icon.
Possibly.
Performative.
Yeah, I think here's the way to look at it. So I think the reason Taco is critical of it, because has anybody ever heard of the concept before? It's called the Overton window.
Oh, yeah.
So a lot of shit that I say is philosophically strong, but it's in the unthinkable range. So there's radical, and after radical, there's unthinkable. And I think in the middle one is conventional, and I'd have to find the exact categories again. But the idea, there's someone who's really specializing in Overton window, they'd say, okay, blonde beast, i.e. Nyklot, I can tell what your problem is. You go right to unthinkable. And that's where it tunes people out, because people don't want to accept the unthinkable. If you want to start with something which is intense, you got to start with radical. So don't start with people like Bap or Evola. Start with Nietzsche. Because Nietzsche is, well, I mean, it's kind of known out. He's out there. I mean, he's a standard philosopher. This makes you a radical thinker, and then you can go from radical to unthinkable. But never start with unthinkable, because people are then going to think this is weird, this is bizarre, because you're outside the Overton window. Now, if you do these BAP and Evolan ideas to someone who's in the know about that, talk to other people on the pagan right, yeah, this isn't unthinkable. This is just standard. They're going to understand this right away. But the idea is they're going to sit there and say that my problem is a rhetorical one. I need to start with Nietzsche.
I don't know, man. Implying that Bronze Age mindset is some kind of advance on Nietzsche sounds like poser talk to me.
No, I didn't say it's an advance on Nietzsche. I should say that it's more unthinkable. I wouldn't say advanced, but it's less than the radical. It's more than the unthinkable. That's what I meant. That's what I should say behind it.
Well, like,